Hey guys, I'm back. I'm bringing you some more amazing ladies of science. This morning I have for you Maria Dalle Donne, who was a doctor. She lived from 1778 to 1842. Maria Dalle Donne was the first woman to receive a doctorate, the highest level of degree in medicine. Her achievements and career are remarkable, not only because of her academic contributions at a time when opportunities for women were so limited, but also to her extremely humble beginnings. She was born to a very poor peasant family that lived in a village outside of the Italian city of Bologna. Yet her cleverness was picked up at an early age, and she was encouraged to study at the local highly esteemed university. In 1799, she passed the medical exams with the highest possible grade, and 1 year later published scientific papers, one on the female reproductive system, one on female fertility, and one on midwifery. We don't have many details about her career, yet we do know that she was very dedicated to midwifery for many decades. In 1804, she was made the director of the School for Midwives, and in 1832, she became the director of the Department of Midwifery at Bologna University. Exceptionally talented and intelligent, Laura Lynn Windsor. Next, I bring you Mary Somerville. She was a mathematician and an astronomer, and she lived from 1780 to 1872. Mary Somerville was a Scottish mathematician, astronomer, and science writer. She and Caroline Herschel were the first female members of the Royal Astronomical Society, and she was an avid promoter of women's rights. She reportedly became interested in mathematics as a teenager, yet her family and first husband gave her little encouragement. It was only when she remarried after her husband's death that her studies were supported. Her work, The Magnetic Properties of the Violet Rays of the Solar Spectrum, was the first ever paper written by a woman to be published by the Royal Society, and in 1872 she translated and explained the mathematical work of Laplace, an eminent French scholar, in the volume called The Mechanism of the Heavens. After her second book was published in 1834, she was elected to join the Royal Astronomical Society and was ordered a large pension by the king. Her two further books, Physical Geography and Molecular and Microscopic Science, were used as educational resources for many years. I thought it unjust that women should have been given a desire for knowledge if it were wrong to acquire it. Anna Atkins, a botanist, 1799 to 1871. Originally trained as a botanist, an expert in the study of plants, Anna Atkins is famous for being a pioneer in the world of photography and is considered by many as the first female photographer. She is known for creating more than 10,000 images to illustrate a book of botanical specimens called Photographs of British Algae, Cyanotype Impressions. Anna's father, John George Children, was the secretary of the Royal Society and a scientist. Through his connections, he learned of the photographic process that were currently being invented and introduced them to his daughter, who helped them as as an assistant. Anna had hand-drawn many illustrations for her father's first book, and so was naturally intrigued by this new way of making images. She became particularly interested in cyanotypes, which are commonly known as sun prints. Here, the item to be captured is placed on special paper and exposed to sunlight. After being washed in water, the areas that were uncovered turned blue, hence the term blueprint. Anna had learned about this cyanotype printing method through the renowned chemist and astronomer Sir John Herschel, who just so happened to be a friend of the family. He had developed the method of recording images in 1842. Her beautiful book is full of white outlines of algae contrasted against deep blue backgrounds, and is both an example of female innovation and determined focus and a treasury of nature. The difficulty of making accurate drawings of objects so minute as many of the algae and coniferae has induced me to avail myself of Sir John Herschel's beautiful process of cyanotype to obtain impressions of the plants themselves, which I have much pleasure in offering to my botanical friends. This is a familiar name, Florence Nightingale, nurse and mathematician. She lived from 1820 to 1910. The world's most famous nurse, Florence Nightingale, changed the world of medicine. She was born in Italy in 1820 while her wealthy English parents were on their honeymoon, and she enjoyed a privileged upbringing. Florence surprised her parents as a teenager by announcing that she wanted to become a nurse. They didn't approve at first. At the start of the 19th century, nurses had to work without training or basic pay, and working conditions in hospitals were terrible. It was not seen as the profession of a lady. Eventually, Florence's father, William, gave in. He saw how determined his daughter was, and in 1851 allowed her to study nursing in Germany at a Christian school. It was here that she learned of the importance of hospital cleanliness for patients, as well as how to care for them. On her return to England, Florence applied her knowledge and by 1853 was running a successful hospital in London as a lady superintendent. I attribute my success to this. I never gave or took any excuse. It wasn't long after, in 1854, that the Crimean War broke out. British troops were sent to Crimea in South Russia, now part of Ukraine, and soon news of how bad the conditions were for injured soldiers reached London. Florence was asked to take a team of nurses to Crimea by the Minister for War, Sidney Herbert, and when they arrived, she was shocked by how unclean and ill-equipped the hospitals were. Disease was rife. With her understanding of the importance of hygiene, Florence set to work cleaning the wards and sourcing better medical equipment. She was absolutely dedicated to helping her patients, checking on them at night by lamplight, and even reportedly writing letters on behalf of wounded soldiers. The war lasted 2 years, and when she returned, Florence was seen as a national heroine. After the war, Queen Victoria herself thanked her for her efforts and took her advice on how to improve army hospitals. Florence didn't rest. She wrote and published a book called Notes on Nursing, founded the Nightingale School and Home for Nurses, and continued to encourage the development of nursing and hygiene in hospitals. Florence also made the first female member of the Royal Statistical Society. Her statistic-based graphs showed how improvements in hygiene could save lives. Her work still impacts the medical world today. This is the last one I have for you in this group. This is Elizabeth Blackwell, a doctor, and she lived from 1821 to 1910. Elizabeth Blackwell was the first woman to qualify as a doctor in America and change the face of medical care for women. She was born in Bristol, England in 1821 and immigrated with her family to America aged 11. After her father, an anti-slavery activist, passed away, she set up a school with her sisters to provide the family with money. Elizabeth soon developed an interest in medicine and decided to become a physician. A close family friend had suffered during an illness and had commented that she would have had more sympathetic treatment if her doctor had been a woman. This got Elizabeth thinking. She applied to medical schools, yet was only granted admission to one, the Geneva Medical College in New York. It was an all-male establishment, and its students were allowed to vote on whether Elizabeth could attend. It is said that they voted her in as a joke. Elizabeth wasn't granted the same equal treatment as her male peers, but she earned their respect by demonstrating her abilities and intellect. After she qualified, Elizabeth went on to have an incredible career on both sides of the Atlantic. She worked in America, London, and Paris, and continued her medical studies by learning midwifery. Sadly, she contracted an eye condition, causing her to lose sight in one eye and removing her ability to train to become a surgeon. Not to be discouraged, in 1857 she opened the New York Infirmary for indigent women and children, and in 1868 opened a medical school for women at her hospital. Elizabeth was determined that women should have the same rights as men to study medicine and become medical professionals, and she founded the National Health Society in 1871 as a means to educate the public about health. Their motto was, "Prevention is better than cure." This statement still holds much weight in the medical community today. She was given the post Professor of Gynecology at the London School of Medicine for Women in 1875 and continued to express her beliefs for the remainder of her passionate career. By the year before her death, nearly 500 women were registered as doctors. Elizabeth deserves much recognition for her part in this amazing achievement and social change. The idea of winning a doctor's degree gradually assumed the aspect of a great moral struggle, and the moral fight possessed immense attraction for me.